This is KGW News at Sunrise.
The man accused of leading police on a wild car chase that turned into an hours-long standoff in Northeast Portland is now in custody. Coming up, the latest on what led to his arrest. Plus.
But the best way to reduce the environmental impact of a product is to extend its lifespan.
That's one of the people, part of a local sportswear company, creating sustainable clothing using recycled materials. It's today's Good Energy Spotlight. Chris McGinnis has more of that story coming up at 6:15.
And we're also talking tipping this morning because a new poll found that more than 80% of people in Portland believe they are generous tippers. So we're asking the question this morning, do you consider yourself to be a generous tipper? This poll you're looking at is our Sunrise Twitter page poll, right there, pinned to the top of the page. And so far, about 63% of our viewers say, yeah, they tip 20% time and time again. That's their go-to percentage. We've talked tipping quite a bit on this Sunrise show in the past, and it often brings out a lot of passion. I'm going to ask, though, for just a moment, we're going to bottle up the actually, we're going to put the passion inside Christine's large coffee mug. Okay. And then we will unveil the passion on this topic in about 6:25.
Is that full? That's large.
Yeah, he was starting to tip it, and I was like, Drew.
It's actually not a coffee mug, it's a tea mug.
It's a tea mug. Got some English breakfast in there.
We're going to the weather wall. Here we go. All right.
Lots of behind the scenes, Rod.
We have partly cloudy skies out there. Another freezing start. The airport's one of the warmer spots at 30. A lot of you are in the 20s. This will be a day with a lot more sunshine than yesterday. I think every hour we'll have at least partial sun that will be noticeable. And that will allow a nice warm up. 43 at noon would be warmer than we have been for highs. And when the kids get out of school with light winds, I think it could be as warm as 50 degrees out there. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Rod. Portland police say a man was killed in a stabbing near the South Park blocks last night. Streets in that area were closed for a time, but this morning are back open. Officers were called out to the area near the Art Museum on Southwest Jefferson at around 11 o'clock. That's where they say they found the man was stabbed. Paramedics were on scene too, but the man died. Police have not released his name, but they did detain one person in connection with the stabbing.
Here's another story we've been following since last night. Portland police arrested a man who they say stole several cars, armed himself with a meat cleaver, and eventually wound up breaking into somebody's house.
There was also a 7-hour standoff before officers took him into custody. There's obviously a lot going on here, and Devin Haskins is covering it all for us this morning. Devin, walk us through what you know.
Yeah, right now, so we're at 122nd and Northeast Halsey here in Northeast Portland, and for hours overnight last night, police had a home in this area surrounded as they tried to talk that man from coming outside of that private home that he had broken into. So just hours before that, though, they had come to this house. We're going to show you some video of that house where police were surrounded. They had brought out the CERT team. They had brought out a drone. They had brought out a robot, all in an attempt to, again, get that man to come out safely. But hours before that is when this all started. Police say the man stole a car on Northeast 103rd and Weidler, then ditched it in a restaurant drive-thru. Police chased the suspect into a different restaurant where they say he then stole a meat cleaver from the kitchen. They found him, tried using the taser on him, but he got away. Police say the suspect then carjacked a passing driver and ditched that car on 122nd, and he didn't stop there. Police say he tried to carjack 2 other people. That includes a man in the Winco parking lot here at 122nd and Halsey. We talked with that man's father.
It's been pretty mind-boggling. I got a phone call from my son, and he had told me that a gentleman had just tried to hijack his car, tried to stab him and take my little 2-year-old grandson. He told him, if you don't let me take the car, I'm going to kill you.
No doubt a scary situation. Police say he wasn't able to take that car because he couldn't get it started, so he took off and ran into that nearby home, where they eventually arrested him, finding him in the attic. Again, that happening just before 1 o'clock this morning. Police say no one was hurt in this. We're still waiting to learn the identity of that man that they arrested. For now, we're going to send it back to you.
All right, Devin Haskins, we appreciate your reporting this morning from Northeast Portland. Meanwhile, later today, Grants Pass Police will hold a press conference to share the details behind the search and the capture of a kidnapping suspect in Southern Oregon. The Associated Press reports that after police took Benjamin Foster, you see him right there, into custody, he later died at the hospital from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. What we don't know this morning is when exactly Foster shot himself. Grants Pass police found Foster yesterday afternoon, barricaded under a home in Grants Pass. Foster was suspected of attempted murder, kidnapping, and assault after authorities found a woman bound and severely beaten inside her home last week. They say the victim still has not regained consciousness.
This morning, we're hearing from the widow of a man shot and killed in southeast Portland last July after U.S. Marshals arrested a suspect. She is 43-year-old Janae Kelly. She was taken into custody Friday in Arizona. She's now charged with second-degree murder. She's accused of shooting and killing Aaron Folstad Martin. Aaron's wife, Shalonda, says she hopes this is the first step toward justice.
He has grandkids that he's been raising that he won't get to see, go to middle school, go to high school, have kids of their own. It's just, she took a lot away from us, and I just feel like she just deserves to pay for it.
It does appear the victim was at least acquainted with the suspect. The two were reportedly arrested together last February for reckless driving.
In your morning headlines, the city of Portland is expected to go back to the negotiating table with the union representing city workers today. There was no agreement during negotiations yesterday, and if it doesn't happen today, about 600 city employees plan to strike tomorrow. This is video from a protest last weekend. Workers include those in Parks and Rec, sewage and wastewater, and transportation. So the key issue here seems to be pay, specifically a cap on cost of living increases. Meantime, the mayor has declared a state of emergency, allowing the city to hire or reallocate staff from other departments to keep things up and running. And Multnomah County health officials say at least 8 people were treated for hypothermia during the latest cold snap, specifically from Saturday to Monday. Warming shelters here were open over the weekend, but then closed Monday because temperatures didn't reach the city and county's threshold for severe weather. And if you saw smoke coming from the Willamette River yesterday afternoon, it's because a ship caught fire near the Broadway Bridge. Portland fire officials say that flames broke out in the laundry room of a ship transporting tons of wheat. That ship was docked at the Temco grain loading dock in North Portland. At least 50 firefighters snaked hoses all throughout the ship. No one was hurt, and investigators at this point are looking into the cause. And those are some of your morning headlines.
All right, take a look at this now. This is a look at the last 747 jet that Boeing will ever make. This afternoon, it will fly to the home of its new owner, Atlas Air. Yesterday, though, in Everett, Boeing gave the 747 a proper send-off with thousands of current and former workers with ties to the 747 on hand for that celebration. That includes a group nicknamed the Incredibles. They earned that nickname because of how quickly they designed and built the plane, really helping to change the world's perspective on air travel. And yes, another person that was part of that celebration yesterday in Everett, John Travolta.
Oh.
Yes, the actor and the pilot, John Travolta, on hand yesterday for the, again, the final 747 that will ever be made by Boeing.
It's so funny. We've been talking about this since yesterday. I know, Rod, you are so passionate. I love how passionate you are about the 747.
Yeah, again, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, I was a flight attendant back in the 80s for a few years for Trans World Airlines. And even if you were working in the industry at the time and you were part of the cabin crew, there was an excitement when you realized you were going to be on the 747, going to Hawaii or to London, or we flew from LA to New York. You know, it was, I think TWA's configuration was like 330 people on board. And
how many rows
like
across
city.
was the 747?
I think
those are the big
ones.
ones.
Yeah, you had 2 aisles. I want to say TWA's configuration was 3 and as much as like 9 in the middle, and then 3, and that was coach.
And you got food.
Yeah. The business class was pretty nice. I tell you, the first class service was amazing. I would go up there from time to time and say, "We got anything left over?"
Of course you would.
Of course I would. All right, we have pretty good day coming up. Yesterday, the clouds kind of won, right? They were thicker more often than thin, I felt. Held the temperature down to 42. Our forecast high was 43. Last night, the clouds did thin out. And I think the thick stuff will be more up here to the north of us today. So up and down I-5 and even at the coast, I think most hours today, maybe all of them, will be at least partly cloudy where the sun is shining and you see some blue sky up top. Now that thinning last night has allowed Salem to dip back down to 24, Kelso 26, a little bit warmer at PDX along the river, 30. It's 7 out in Burns, also some freezing numbers at the coast. This will be the final day this week of a hard freeze, where parts of the valley is what we just saw, 24, 25, 26. We could still be freezing tonight, but we'll be closer to 29, 30, 32. Okay, rain chances that are upcoming. The one that was Thursday evening, Thursday night in my forecast has been pushed back into Friday daytime. Still doesn't look like a lot of total rain, 2/10. Saturday, some light rain during the day, but maybe a 5/100 at most. Sunday still looks to be on paper the wettest of the bunch, but still weather miles only giving us about 1/4 of an inch, and there's another system coming in Tuesday afternoon. So none of that looks like, an overly big soak, if you will. Okay, back to what's happening today. Light winds, partly cloudy, afternoon warming. These are the raw weather model numbers, and those numbers say Corvallis hits 50 today. Those same numbers give Longview 50. And at least the forecast model says if you don't hit 50 today, you have a good chance to be 47, 48, 49. The last couple of days we've been in the low 40s, so that's going to be noticeably warmer for you. I'm going to say we could do it. 50 today, we could do it. Tomorrow 50, and then rain showers on Friday. Saturday, not a bad day. Light rain around, but 53, and then temperatures are pretty mild with no more freezing numbers into the mid part of next week. Remember, today's weather theme is we could do it. We'll be back in a moment.